up above, I'm just adjusting volumes and stuff, but up above, obviously Exploring Our National Parks, Volume 3, out this week. Huge accomplishment for me to actually hit the deadline. Need to get the audiobook wrapped up and then make some progress on the videos. Plan to release those in the new year. Also, the most recent podcast episode from the session 2 weeks ago was released on Monday, and there's a link to the Film 3 space that Chris hosts on Thursdays. So we'll be talking, about AI and filmmaking, storytelling, using the tools, wherever that conversation likes to go. It likes to go to different places. How's your day going? What have you been doing? What have you been working on? How is it?
Well, I was doing some CAD work. I was editing this morning, editing a chapter of Princess of Turmoil. Up to chapter 3 of that. I got 50 total, so I'm plugging away. I got to finish composing that. I was also outlining this other book about religion and political philosophy that I'm writing. I don't know when I'm going to get to write it, but I'm outlining it, and the outline's almost done. And I hope to do more editing today, besides your show and whatever else is going on,
Do you outline more for nonfiction material than you do for fiction material?
I feel you have to outline for both considerably, but when I write nonfiction, it's harder because there's more dump shocks. A dump shock is like, someone who's informed about what you're talking about. Like if you're writing science fiction, you can't write about black holes knowing nothing about black holes. It's a dump shock. The person who's familiar with modern physics, who's there looking for a science fiction, they're going to get dump shocked. They're going to be like, well, this guy doesn't know crap about anything. So when you're writing about like existence and reality, like actuality, like to me, there's a lot more involved, especially when it's like, there's plenty of people that fib and write gibberish and nonsense about politics, like just pablum, like propaganda nonsense coming through that any channel anywhere would tell you. And then there's people who want to like rip things apart, and like, I'm the latter. Like I want to, like, if I'm writing something like this, it's going to be to, inform and correct. It's not going to be to go. I'm not a conformist, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. You have so many books in the hopper, in production.
Oh, bro, you have no idea. If I read you the list, you would be like, okay, Ricky's full of it. Like, there's no way.
No, because you produced. Well,
yeah, maybe you'll give me credit, but it's like, the amount of them sounds ridiculous to me. And I'm the one that has the list. So it's like, literally for years and years, dude, I have like 10 years worth of stuff writing at my current word yield. I have 10 years worth of stuff to write, like big books. It's crazy.
I've got, 2 films that I'm working on, and 1 paperback for next year, and a handful of short stories, some related to the film stuff, some not. I just try to spin everything forward a little bit at a time so that I can actually make deadlines for myself that I want to hit. Like, the amount of writing that you do is impressive. I don't write anywhere near. I don't like your daily word count. Your weekly word count is just incredible.
Now, Michael, you're a very busy man, and I would never assume to know what to do with your time. Because you have a fantastic yield of yourself. The thing you just listed is a very impressive slate of things to work on, and your stuff's quality. So it's like, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if you ever wanted to write a novel and you ever wanted any kind of support Like, I'm doing these workshops with Paulette, and if you ever wanted to write something big, just to let you know, love to help, love to be there. It's nothing but fun for me. But you're doing great, so there's no reason for me to throw a big rock into your lake right now and disturb what's going on, because your production is at a high volume and at an excellent quality. So, just saying, chum to chum, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'd like to, so when I started putting out books in 2019, the thing was like, I've got 3 books, that turned into 4. Now I've got, 6 of them out. Let me think here. Yeah. 6 paperbacks out now. And it's like, that wasn't what I thought I was going to end up doing at the beginning of things. That was just what has developed out of that. And, getting into the short story fiction thing, that has been something that I always in the past thought was like unachievable for me. So even being able to do short stories, periodically is something I'm pleased with. I'm happy to be able to do it just as a skill. Not that my stuff is particularly like good or anything like that, but I'm glad that I'm doing it. And 2 years ago, I wanted to get into video more. That didn't necessarily happen 2 years ago. It took me a whole year after that to really start to dial into it and learn about storytelling on screen, and then really to be able to move between the written word and the screen. I've been making videos, obviously, like the documentary is started 5 years ago, came out in 2020, and that is very different than the fictional short stuff that I've been doing. What's up, Paulette? You're more than welcome to come on stage. Come on in and just grab a mic and hang out. Ricky was just talking about the workshop spaces that you guys host, and that has in turn resulted in me kind of talking about some of the projects I've got going on. So like, I think that these things kind of feed into each other in different ways. And like, you can hone your ability. I would say doing the Fall of Tartaria video pressed me to think more about characters and creating a short story that's more character oriented than say like the Relic of the Aztecs, which again, there's characters in it obviously, but it's more allegorical. Like the whole first act is really, and then the stuff that I'm working on now, I would say, what comes out in the spring will be the most traditional fictional narrative short story in that way. So it's taken a while for me to sharpen my pencil and find a form within it. Are you live, Paulette?
I think so.
Hey, yeah, we got you.
Yeah. I'm here. I just want to drop in and see what was going on, just being nosy.
Yeah, no, good. Feel free to put stuff into the nest if there are things you want us to check out and look at or promote. Like, I don't know how early you guys schedule your spaces, but are you in the Cabal, that group DM?
I am, yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, always make sure that you're sharing the tweet in there, because then I can retweet it with the accounts that I have in there. Otherwise, like if you're just posting the like, here, join the chat thing, well, I can't retweet that as easily, to save me a couple of steps.
Sure. Okay.
That way, like I can join, and I do, I like to, but additionally being able to put the stuff out on Speaker Cone and stuff like that, that makes it easier for me.
All right.
What are you working on? What have you been writing? What are you doing today?
Well, I've been doing my regular 9 to 5 or my 7:30 to 3, and in between I've been trying to work uh, my story about the Phaedra and Gracie, and they're going into another dimension and all that good stuff. It's what Ricky and I've been working on. So it's coming along. It's not just the bare bones. I'm getting a little bit of flesh on it,
Nice.
but just working it through and reading it to my husband so he can just poke holes in it. He's like, well, what about this? Well, how can they do that if that happens? Like, oh my God, I don't want to hear it, but I do. So it's good stuff.
What is your target for that work? Is it going to be a novel, something shorter, longer, a series?
A novel, I think. It's 100,000 words, Ricky. That's what we're trying to shoot for.
That's what we're designing. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see the posts that you guys make off of the workshop spaces, where it'll say like, here's how to break down a chapter into, segments to hit a word count. And like that stuff is great for me. I haven't done it, but I see it and it makes sense. That to me.
Well, not to cut you off, but whenever you'd like, I could easily do a workshop for you, get you started, because the word budget set me. Why do I write so much? Why do I write drafts that are pretty integral, that don't have a lot of changing? It's because of this word budget stuff, the concept of poetic journalism. Anybody that would like to, I'd love to go over it, because it'll help me write the book, and then I can help even more people. That's really all I want,
I'm definitely following a format for the short story that I'll put out in the spring, where it's like it's a 6,000 word format, and then it breaks that into quarters. And like, I started out kind of outlining the story to find the beats within that, and then begin to actually write the thing. And that's been great. That has helped me a lot. And also it has helped me to think about the pacing, but also that's going to be part of like 3 stories. If it grows into more than that in the future, that's cool. But like just those 3 is kind of like what I'm targeting at the outset. And like, that's going to be basically like my attempt at creating a very short novella. It'll be less than 20,000 words, but at the same time, like 20,000 words is longer than anything I've written in terms of fiction at this point. So if I can accomplish that over the next 2 years, then I'll be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, definitely. It's something to be satisfied with. 20K, it's like two short stories. But the fact of the matter is it's technically a novella. My novellas are around 30K. Like that book on religion and political philosophy is going to be like 50 to 54K, because I gathered a bunch of stuff from other projects. Like I outline and then I cannibalize, like when it comes time. Like that's why the outlining is really never a waste of time.
Yeah.
Because even if the project doesn't materialize, you might need it later, and then you can just go in, rip it apart, and take what you need from the 10Ks or the chapter budgets or whatever. So I'm glad it's assisting whoever it's assisting. That's wonderful news.
Yeah, no, I agree with the cannibalization process. I've done that a lot, where like you'll jot down some notes or some ideas, and Father D, you're hanging out. If you want to come up on stage, grab a mic. We're just talking. This is an open conversation. But the thing that I found, particularly with like blogging or article writing, client work and stuff like that, is sometimes you will create some stuff and it doesn't ever find its way out the door, but that doesn't mean that you're not able to take advantage of it and utilize it in something else later on. Like I did an article on Dune that was released in a video. That I do that sometimes, where I'll take an article and turn it into a video, and that had been sitting in my notes for like a year. And it was only after the newer film was released early this year, where I was like, all right, I'm going to hammer this thing out and get it out the door, because it's poignant, and also I was into the movie. I thought visually he did a great job, and Dune is something that I have crossed paths with like my whole life, in terms of there's games and there's books and there have been films and television and all kinds of stuff. It's got cultural relevance, not only at large, but to me. And I had written a short review also of the first film when that was released 3 or 4 years ago or whatever. So I actually grabbed up that, re-edited what I needed there, or moved some pieces around into the newer notes and outline, and then was able to turn that into, I think it's like a 5 or 6 minute video. And the article maybe is 1,500 words or something like that. But at the same time, nothing went to waste, and I was able to make use out of it in time just by keeping the idea there and jotting things down as they kind of presented themselves to me. And again, like the new movie had come out, and I had read the books in the past, but I had done a few audiobooks that were like multi-voiced. I'd listened to them over the years. So that stuff, those little bits and pieces of my reviews of those get included. And like, it always kind of comes back to the phrase, like using the whole buffalo for me. I think of it that way.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reason to outline. That's the reason to go back over notes and farm and research. And as far as Dune is concerned, I like the new Dune movies, and I'm looking forward to Dune Messiah when it eventually comes out. That being said, nothing's perfect. I mean, there were huge things that I felt that by his approach, he made it so he couldn't address. There was misrepresentations of Fremen, misrepresentations of the ecology. Like, speaking of dump shocks, going full circle back to the beginning, not only of the material, but of the actual planetology involved. A lot of the stuff was just a little bit too brushed over. And I didn't like the romance between Paul and Cheney. I don't recognize the Cheney character whatsoever. And it's part of the problem is that I don't recognize the Fremen culture whatsoever. So, but that majority wise, considering this book was the dreaded monolith, the unfilmable Colossus, even though they made a decent series in 2000 or whatever, that, I mean, low budget as hell, like ridiculous, like a trip to McDonald's budget. But, it's like, I like Villeneuve's approach. I think the flicks are glamorous, and there's certain aspects to them that are, it's wonderful films, and it's beautifully done. And certain characters are done with tremendous fidelity. So I can't complain too much, even though Dune fans are known to complain much.
Are you a Dune fan?
Oh, I've not only read like all the books, like I don't mean the Brian Herbert books. I mean the ones that Frank wrote.
Sure.
I tried reading Machine Crusade. Problematic. I didn't care for The Voice. And I should be riveted. I should be bolted, screaming to The Voice, because it's a story about AI. And yet wasn't really that in love with how it was going on, the story they were telling. I thought the Dune Encyclopedia's lore, which I also have, which I've also read, which is, by the way, a magnificent book. Good luck finding it. It's worth like $450, $500, even in mediocre condition. But it was written by Frank, and it's just an unbelievable resource material for the Duneverse. And for anyone who's writing a science fiction space opera of that magnitude, if you could put your hooks in that, get it right away, because it's amazing for that purpose. So yeah, I mean, I'm obsessed. My favorite one is God Emperor, but the best Dune book is obviously the first Dune book. But my favorite is God Emperor of Dune. I think it's a masterpiece.
It is very strong. I would say it's probably the best after the original.
Yes, I'm forced to agree because I love Dune Messiah. It's just, it's got a strange pace. It's kind of like meandering. And Children of Dune is awesome, but it's not my favorite part of the story, right? And it's also got a strange pacing. Like, it's a huge, voluminous edition, and all this weird stuff is going on. But it's like God Emperor is like, it's such a restart. It's like, you have no idea. Like say, let's just pretend that I become like a Stephen King or a George Martin.
Yeah, let's.
I have the amount of street cred, the amount of money, publishers love me. They throw roses at me when I go on speaking tours. They wait on what my dumb blog is going to say, like it matters. Imagine all that. Now imagine Ricky somehow got a hold of the Dune property to like a licensing, some kind of licensing. Obviously Brian's, instead of Kevin J. Anderson or whatever his name is, maybe they go to me, and it's like, well, what would you write? And it's like, have you ever read all the way through to the finish with Duncan Idaho, Michael? Have you ever read all of them, like the ones Brian wrote that finished the original series?
No.
It's not easy to get through those last books, but it's almost worth it. It's just, it just doesn't have the power that the original series had. But the ending is supposedly based on Frank's notes, and it's really, really
supposedly,
crazy. Right? Well, it's a big supposedly.
No one's seen them.
No. He said he found them in a P.O. box. And it's like, how long has he been croaked that you found it now in a P.O. box? It's like, that doesn't, I don't know. Maybe I'm naive or silly or something. But anyway, I thought it was a strange ending, but I also thought there were parts of it that were like, okay, like pretty cool, like could be worse. It's just, the characters are I don't know. I think I'm rambling now. I'm just going to shush. But
that's all right. Did you ever read or listen to Brian's biography on his father?
Bits and pieces of it. I have read it, and it seemed as if there was a veiled bitterness there between father and son. I don't know that he liked everything about his dad based on the stuff I read, but I think it's called The Road to Dune. I read it like a million years ago because I remember when I was reading it, when I was carrying it around, and I was in my grandmother's living room, and she's not even with us anymore. So it was quite a while ago that I read that. But yeah, why? What were you going to reference in there?
I was just going to spin back around to, some of the points that you already made in regards to, the notes being found later, maybe the contention in their relationship, the fact that they finish the books and there's mixed response to that, though perhaps better than the prequel stuff or the spin-off stuff that Brian and Kevin Anderson did, so, you touched on probably all the points that I would have in there, but I do agree. Like, it seemed like, Frank was very driven, and to be a writer, and, maybe Brian wanted more attention, but at the same time, like, gosh, he ended up going into writing. He has a career in writing, arguably because of his father, and some level of success with it as a result of the work that his father did. And, if there was any contention or animosity at some point, it seems like no reason to hold that in your heart anymore, just because you were able to turn a corner on your own work as a result of that, you know?
Yeah, I'm hip. And if I were in Brian's shoes, I would feel elated to have such a legacy to minister upon, the way that Christopher Tolkien ministered upon an article like a document like the Silmarillion.
Yeah.
You know, I would find it. I mean, like I said, I haven't read all those House Harkonnen, House Atreides, the spinoffs. I haven't read all those. There's a bunch of people that say they're pretty cool. Like they're just like the first book, an extension of the first book. Maybe that's true. I'm not particularly interested in that. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, they're out there. And to me, to go back to your point about like finding great success with an IP, we see the emergence of Tolkien into a cultural force over the last 25 years, you know, arguably. It's been wildly popular for decades before that, but certainly like once the Peter Jackson films came out, they'd hit another gear, and the Tolkien estate certainly has its hand in that. Same with the Rings of Power. If you like things or you don't, it's still cool that there are pieces of the story that are getting put on screen. Will it be the final version that's ever put on screen? Probably not. Will we see another remake of the Silmarillion stories at some point? Perhaps in our lifetime. You know, will they be more authentic? You know, maybe, hopefully. But the same thing for Dune. You know, I liked David Lynch's film. I think it's a great testament to early 80s filmmaking and sci-fi. I don't have the complaints that other people have. He is creative and inventive at times, bending the story the same way that Villeneuve does. And these are just interpretations. Like if Frank Herbert wanted it to be an authentic retelling of his story, you know, maybe that's something that he should have pursued more directly. Certainly both of the versions that we have are more authentic than what we would have got from Jodorowsky. So, you know, in that way, I'm fine with it. And again, like these things have all spun into the opportunity that a George Martin has found himself in, right? And that like his books were popular amongst the high fantasy, medieval fantasy crowd of readers. But when it gets on TV, all of a sudden the merchandising side of things and the larger world building that he's been able to do in other shorts and novellas and compilations and stuff like that, that all arose out of the opportunity that he found himself in. And I think all of us would like that same sort of success along the way.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. That's my measure of success is like 20 to 30 books and like 30 languages, multiple regions all over the world. That's still not what they did. Frank is the Lord of the Rings of sci-fi. That's what he's known for. The Lord of the Rings was the second most popular book in the 20th century in the Western world after the Bible. All right. You can't imagine what that is. That's monumental success translated all over the place. And now, as you're saying, with the Jacksonian trilogy, the multimedia applications are unbelievable. I mean, video games now and everything else. Yeah, and Martin, you know, I love the original Song of Ice and Fire books. I think they're great. I mean, the last couple are a little bit shaky, you know. I think he was like forgetting how to have fun, forgetting like how to do it, like because he was a genius. And it's like writing at those volumes, those books are massive. They're like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of words with all that sophistication. You know, some people dismiss him, some people de-emphasize him, but there really is no way to delete him because they call him the American Tolkien. That's a level of success that's like to even be compared to him in a non-laughable way means that you really did something right, you know? We all have different flavors of success, so I don't know. Michael, like 20 years from now or whatever, what are your goals for your media? Like, what do you think you'll be doing? Like, what are your dreams? I mean, we transcend goals when we have multiple decades. We're talking about dreams at that point.
Yeah, right. Well, I think we've probably touched on that. Let me make it more tangible. Let me say, like, and this is something that I was talking to Heidi about just the other day, where like my goal for this year was to be selling something every day, right? And I'm in that space. I've achieved that. Hopefully that continues. That is. I appreciate that attention and involvement from people looking at my stuff and saying, like, I want to read what he wrote, or I want to watch what he directed. That's cool to me. Success in that kind of like inside of the market, of ideas, like to have people finding what I'm doing on a daily basis and willing to participate in it. That's awesome. Again, like to extend on that, next year, I would like 2 people every day to be wanting to be participating and involved in the stuff that I've created. That to me is like a tangible goal. I can see that. That's maybe not dream space, but could I attain that goal by the end of next year? I feel like I could. It's something where we talk about generally, or at least I've made the point of like moving from being a writer to being an author, right? We write and we can put things down. I can write for free, but to be an author is to put your work out there to be evaluated and judged and purchased. And like that, making that turn is about promoting and being a part of the community, and also engaging with it and helping to kind of amplify what other people are doing. Hopefully, and like Ricky, you're a great regular participant in all this stuff that we do, not only hosting spaces, but coming and hanging out in my space, coming and hanging out in the space, in the writer's block space with Heidi and I. Like, those are things where we can participate in what each other is doing and hopefully like sharpen each other, but also promote what we're releasing and getting out into the world and exchanging ideas. That to me is important. I would like to be doing more of that, and I want to find more avenues to go down on the internet and in communities. Like, I'm not really a live event type of person. I don't really enjoy doing them, but this kind of thing, I would like to do more of this, because I get a lot out of it, and which is why, I'm recording this session and I put them out as podcasts, because I want more people to find out about the space that we do, find out about your ideas and the work that you're putting out, and being able to hear the discussion. And, same with the podcast that we did with Tom. Like, all of these things, I would like to be doing more of them. And whatever kind of extends out of that. If in 2 years, everything is humming along and I'm able to keep pushing with the work that I'm doing, and, with the community aspect of being an author, like that to me is success.
Dig it. Yeah, that'd be great. Well, you do a lot of shows as it is, so I don't know how much of your schedule is left over for any more, because you had one the day before, you have one today. I don't know. I do these workshops with Paulette, and I do the stuff on Thursday with Tom, and sometimes pop-ups besides, but it's all like, the problem is I never have enough time to write, even though I'm writing all the time. It's like I'm obsessed with it. Like, I don't really feel alive unless I'm writing. I can work all day making money, but I don't get satisfaction until a chapter comes out. And these are satisfying. These shows are satisfying because they help the writing community, and they're part of not only the refinement of process, but of networking and stuff. So I don't have a problem with that. It's a balancing act, being creative or promoting creative, helping creative. It's like, there's a lot to juggle,
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing too, for me. Oh, I see, Paul, you got your hand raised. I'm media, you know what I mean? Like I'm making a bunch of different stuff. I like doing podcasting. I've been doing it on and off for over 10 years. And group chats. Like I like doing that. I like conversation, and, I want to keep doing that. The writing side of things. If I ever choose to kind of bite off doing a novel, that would be huge. We'll see if it happens. I can keep doing the stuff that I do produce now, fairly indefinitely. That's a viable production schedule for me. Paulette, what were you going to say?
I was just going to mention about the communities and how much that they stoke my writing fire very much. I've written several books already, but until I joined spaces and have met people like you all, I felt very much in a silo. And now to get feedback from my work and to get direction and guidance, it has made a world of difference for me.
Yeah, that's great stuff. That's what it's there for. I don't know if you guys hung out on Clubhouse back when it was kind of having its moment, but like that's where I had just kind of put out the first 2 books that I had at the time, and was getting ready to put out my third, and the video series workshop that went with the marketing book. And like these guys were doing, kind of helpful spaces, just addressing self-publishing. But then also they would do promotional chats as well. So they were working with authors to proceed through the process of getting their book finished and edited and manufactured, and on Amazon KDP and doing kind of like book launches and stuff like that. I would like to do more of that side of things too. I think that's I think that there's value there.
I find that for me, the promotional side is just so very painful. I'd rather just write. And if someone else could do all that, that would be great. But then that gets expensive.
See, I actually feel exactly the same as you. Exactly. I can't really stand it. I don't like social media. I don't even really like people, to be perfectly honest with you. They're an unfortunate side effect. I mean, with the exception of some fine people around here. I'm not a psychopath, but in the same token, if I could, I would be one of the, like, I'd probably, I'm assuming fame and success, and I'd probably come out every once in a while to talk, to do something. But as far as being like a huge public figure, no, I'd rather not. I mean, I couldn't agree more,
I feel like there's 2 sides of things, or probably more, really. We're on the indie self-publishing side of things. Once you are trying to make a turn maybe into like hybrid publishing, which skirts both sides, or you are getting involved in the traditional publishing side of things, like that's when you have to make some level of concession. Now, there are people that don't, famously, like J.D. Salinger or Thomas Pynchon. Like they're not out there doing live chats or hanging out. They just want to work on their stuff and live their life. And that, I think, is fair. I don't think that we, as their readership or fans of their work, we don't necessarily like deserve more access to them as fans in any sense.
The problem we have is that it really is, according to anybody that knows anything or that claims to know anything anyway, all authors are supposed to be actively participating in their social media and doing as much as they can for the community. And it's not a principled thing. It's for the sake of sales. It's like back in the day when you were a writer, you know, you had pamphlets and you went to bookstores and you handed out pamphlets, and then you got street cred. Maybe you went to a reading and someone was there. You know, eventually you have enough stuff and they regard you. And in regarding you, they see, is there anything worth looking at here? Nowadays, it's an ocean. There's so many fish and so much coral and so much different things. There are gatekeepers, and it's like there's always been gatekeepers, but it's different now. And it's no easy thing. And I think if you don't promote, if you don't do something, like, it doesn't have to be that you're posting little witticisms all day thinking you're clever. It could be, well, I did a read and then I posted that, or I'm on a podcast where they talk about it. And it's like, that's my thing. You know, I don't have comfort outside of that. And I've been podcasting forever in various shapes and forms, mostly for practice. And now I'm at the point now where I think maybe I could do it because I don't like the way I sound. I'm not critical. I'm not hypercritical of my writing. I'm hypercritical of like how I sound on a mic. Like I don't care for it. So it's always a battle, man. I don't know what else to say.
Well, I think you sound fine. You know.
Yes, I agree. I find that the promotional side of things, it's just kind of an aside for me now. Initially, I came onto Twitter to promote my books and thought, you know, that was the ticket to do it that way. And I just got introduced to spaces, and there's real people out here. And so I've gotten more into being with other writers, other authors. And now when someone says, well, you want to promote your book? Sure, I'll do that. But that's not the reason I come anymore, which I'm glad about because it's a lot less stress.
Yeah, I don't look at, well, let me rephrase. I like to promote like when the new thing comes out, or the process of developing the thing as it's coming along, or having channels for those projects to kind of exist independent of me, like the Chicago Project does, or the National Parks Project. They have their own social media accounts where they can do the things that they need to do as entities outside of myself, where, they engage with things that are relevant to them. And there are lots of people that follow those accounts that don't follow me, I'm fine with that. If people only like those things, that's perfectly reasonable for them to only be interested in those kind of things. I'm going to keep working on all the stuff that I like. Maybe there's some crossover between the audiences. In fact, there are, there is a crossover between the different people to a degree, but it doesn't have to be that way. I think when, for me, like exploring fiction and nonfiction, that is going to find its way into different spaces just by the design of the spaces that, the communities that enable that work or that engage with that type of work. That's just kind of what happens there. And I don't have any problem with that. I'm still going to keep working on the stuff that I like to do. For example, like now that this book is out, I'm going to finish up the audiobook. That'll come out next month. I'll work on the videos. Those will come out in the new year. And then after that, I will release an album of music that I'll have written for the videos. And like, I enjoy working on all those different types of things. And like, maybe somebody only likes the music side of what I do. Like, I performed as a musician for a long time. Maybe they only want to see the pictures and the photography. Like, that's fair too. And so they're not really interested in the nonfiction thing, because I don't have any photos there. Maybe they're only interested in short story fiction stuff, and just because they are genre readers, and so they find this stuff as it overlaps with the genre that they enjoy, and that's fine too. Like I just think that all of that stuff is acceptable. Oh, Father D, you're coming up. Let's bring you up. Are you live? Are you here? Are you hanging out? Are you in the tunnel?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're alive.
Oh, I didn't want to interrupt you. You go ahead. You go ahead. I was just turning my mic on.
Oh, don't sweat it. Yeah, no, feel free. You know, we're friends. We're hanging out. Not a big deal.
Hey guys, so the problem that I have with Spaces, and I had such high hopes for it, is I used to podcast and interview true crime authors and stuff like that. So I was just very excited about it, and to get off of such a stringent platform like a podcast where you have to go back and edit and put all this hard work into it. But anyways, the thing that bums me out is that, like, say you have a title. We'll just use yours for so you got writing, publishing, and authorship session recorded. That's what we're talking about, right? So someone chimes in, and if they don't catch like the first couple minutes of anybody talking about that, and somebody's just going on, a little side note rant, and no one stops them, they're out. They're like, okay, this isn't very helpful, and it's just a bullshit session between a couple friends. So I wonder, like, how groups can get more laser focused on topics, and then if it's being rude and cutting a speaker off, it is what it is, because it's so hard to garner a fan base if you're not staying on topic, or have it, even like, I feel like even if it's just smaller, if it's a smaller, just even if it's a 15-minute discussion, as long as it's powerful and it ends, I would be happy. But these spaces are designed for, like, people to try to go on an hour, and it's just hard to catch that hour of good knowledge when you get a stranger chiming in.
Well, that's just the nature of group conversation. I would say Heidi and I host the Writer's Block, and those are usually topically themed and targeted discussions. Here, on this Wednesday space that I do every other week, it's very freeform. Sometimes we're asking questions, sometimes we're promoting, sometimes we're just kind of talking shop, shooting the breeze, and updating each other on what we're doing. And that's what it's for, fundamentally, that I record this stuff and then I put it out as a podcast to supplement the other audio that's coming out on my podcast streams. Ricky, Paulette, I don't know who raised their hand first. I didn't see.
Paulette can go first, man.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I wanted to mention that I've been in some spaces where every so often they will reset the space in terms of, this is who we are, this is what we're talking about. So that, I think that's helpful. Of course, you have to get in there at that certain time to be privy to that, but I think that's helpful.
Meh. I've got mixed feelings about that. Sometimes I feel like the hosts do that at certain time intervals, and it derails the conversation, the organic flow of things. I like to think of myself more as a facilitator, just a phone bank operator, than a host here, in this space. This is just, again, conversation. Whereas, like, on the Tuesday space, that is much more directed and hosted in general, where Heidi and I plan out the discussion, the theme, and we talk at length about it in advance and make notes. And, in that way, it hopefully serves more of that purpose there. Ricky?
Sorry, I hit the mic by accident. Yeah, I don't mind the idea of resets. I mean, I've never seen it, never been in one that did it. My thing is, it should be in the rules, and you should label, like, what your space is. Like, if your space is a big lecture that's going on and on and on, then it should be it should be up in the thing telling people. If it's a open participation and open mic, then that should also be said, explained. And when it comes to like something like a reading space, there's like a 10-minute read. Like you get to read for 10 minutes, or what I say 2K, 2,000 words. So if you, because some people have no idea about the etiquette of the mic. Some people just go on and on and on. And some people can go on and on. Some people they have such a well of intellect and they have so many things to convey that you want them to go on and on. But that might not be what the audience wants. It's complicated, but I think if you budget it out into segments, you can circumvent a lot of problems. I just don't think that people budget stuff out into segments. That's all.
Well, let me ask you guys this. How do you feel about the writer's block in terms of, when I joined as like the regular co-host with Heidi, like we met a few times just to discuss kind of revamping what the program was compared to what it was earlier in the year when Stephanie and Heidi were trading back and forth. And the first thing was like, hey, let's actually outline some stuff, find some resources, and then let's do this workshop thing once a month because we're both working on projects and it's a good way of checking in once a month with the progress that we're making. And then also to give other people that same opportunity. Bricky, you listened to it in the past, so I assume you have context for that shift in the tonality.
Yeah, and I thought those shows were cool back when they were doing what they were doing. And I used to tune in for quite a few of them because I was trying to figure out for my own, beyond just entertainment or networking or, I was trying to hear how people did it because there's a little bit of a difference. As Dano said, there is a little bit of a difference between a space and a podcast. And I was used to doing podcasts, a little bit of a different dynamic because of the mic discipline and various other things. And also the nature of what X is, X is crazy. Like, it's not as crazy as it used to be, but it's still pretty crazy. Like when I first got on here, there was at least one hostile person almost in every space that was like being disruptive or trollish or just might be intoxicated or something because of the way that they're talking and acting. And you could just eject them the hell out, so it didn't matter. But I don't know. I don't even know because I don't know about the blocking thing. So I'm not even sure if that's what's up anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean so the thing was like Clubhouse when it started. I would say a lot of the etiquette from Clubhouse kind of came over to Twitter because so many people had Twitter accounts. And there are certain, like, what Clubhouse was initially and the way people were using it. There's some things that I really liked that were happening over there that just didn't translate to Twitter. I have not seen them here. Another thing that has kind of died off more in the last year is kind of the like holding court sort of sessions where it's like, you'll see it in really, really big rooms, but like where it's just like one or two co-hosts and then they're fielding questions and, then that's your question, that's your time. And then you're moved off the stage. Like I know that still happens, but the nature of Twitter has always been like real-time global conversation. And I think that the spaces here facilitate that aesthetic more than what Clubhouse had when it was making its push initially. Hold on, let me get their name right. Mississippi, Chase Werner, if you want to come up and chat about your work or anything, we'll hang out for a little while longer. Grab a mic and we'll bring you up. This is, just a free form discussion on writing, publishing, authorship. You're welcome to ask questions. You can put them into the comments section if that's easier for you, given, what you're obligated to right now. Otherwise, do you guys want to do a round of last thoughts, final comments for today?
Well, I think what we got going on here is great, Michael. I think your spaces are exceptional. I think you have a firm grasp of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I will continue to attend for that reason, if nothing else. If you ever wanted to start like a space, like another one, it'd be great to have a meeting to discuss it, to see what it is that we could do if we wanted to do it. I'd be down with that. You're a great guy to work with, and you're a good podcaster, spacer, whatever you want to call it. So I think it's great.
Hey, man, thanks.
I've enjoyed your spaces anytime I've popped in, and this one is certainly one that caught my attention with the title, and it's been great to hear the conversations that, again, if I'm in my silo, I'm not going to hear it, and just being able to be with other writers, I think is great.
Yeah, hopefully they're all a service. There's a lot of writing spaces that you'll see pop up here and there. Sometimes people take breaks. Sometimes they go into other corners of the internet, but I don't think Twitter's going to go away. I think it's definitely shifted over the last couple of years, but at the same time, I still like it. I use a lot of stuff, at least cyclically, if not daily. Twitter's kind of still my daily driver, with Facebook Meta stuff being the second there. But yeah, in general, up above, if you're looking for discussion on filmmaking, Film 3 community, there's a link to the space that I co-host with Chris. That'll be tomorrow, midday. Link to the previous recording of this space from 2 weeks ago is up on SpeakerCone as well. That's in the Nest and on my podcasting channels. And then Volume 3 of Exploring Our National Parks was released this week, so I'll be talking about that more and more as time goes on, once I kind of get out of this early promotional cycle that finally, I can do since it's released. I'll start talking a little bit more about like what's in there and why. 7 parks, photos of them, essays, and photography, my hiking journeys and camping and stuff like that, as I was doing that a couple of years back. But yeah, for today, at any rate, thanks for hanging out, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. The November Grand Sumo Tournament has started. It started on Sunday, still the first week, so you got almost 2 weeks left of that. And we'll talk again before too long. Enjoy the rest of your day.